Well, as you know, Apple announced the new iPhones. We got 4 new models, the 12 mini, the regular 12, the Pro, and the Pro Max. And honestly, I wasn't really too excited. I mean, there was a lot of little upgrades, but nothing that really got me excited enough to even want to upgrade, even with the excuse of being able to review it. For the past several years, I've gotten the new iPhone so I can review it. But this year, I think there's so little difference between my current 11 Pro and the 12 Pro that I don't even think it's going to be worth it. So if you're someone who's been trying to convince themselves that I'm going to hold off in another year before upgrading, then you might want to watch this video. It'll confirm your suspicions. However, that doesn't mean that I'm going to say you should not upgrade to this phone sucks or whatever, because this is going to be coming from my perspective who has an 11 Pro, which is very similar. If you're someone who has a very older phone, you only upgrade every several years, then honestly, there are going to be enough major improvements from your current phone where, yeah, you're obviously going to be extremely happy with some of these new developments. But if you are someone who maybe has a 1 or 2 year old phone, then yeah, you'll probably see what I'm talking about. So first of all, the biggest focus really they had was the whole 5G thing. All the new iPhones now support 5G, which I don't think is that great. I think obviously it's good that they added 5G. I think it was bound to happen. They need to really add it, need to support the new technology, but I don't get why they're really focusing on it. I mean, I do get why they're focusing on it, but I don't think people should be as excited about it as hard as they're pushing it. I mean, they were talking about how, oh, the new iPhones, they've tested getting multiple gigabits per second speed. Who needs that speed on their phone? Maybe if you're tethering it to like a workstation or something, but I mean, look, I did a speed test on my current phone, which has 4G LTE. I was getting 250 megabits down and like 40 to 50 up. What am I gonna even need that speed for? So what would I need 5G for? I don't know what kind of files I would possibly be downloading on my phone that would need that sort of speed. And even if you did fully take advantage of the 5G speeds and were downloading at multiple gigabits a second, that would mean that your phone would be filled up with whatever files you're downloading in a couple of minutes. So it's not that exciting to me for having 5G on a phone. Yes, it's obviously essential, and I think the reduced latency is good. Honestly, I am excited for 5G in general, but not for phones, more for like home internet. And this is really gonna be another video topic probably, but I think the main benefit of 5G is when they start putting it around and you could get really fast in-home antennas basically that can provide low latency, high quality internet that doesn't have to be gotten through your ancient ISP that has a monopoly and you have nowhere else to go because they only have the hard wire for your internet company, whereas now you can have other companies all putting their antennas in the same area and then you don't have to rely on your ISP. I think it's going to force every company to innovate. That's another story though. So I don't know, 5G, I mean, it's good that they added it, obviously they needed to, but I don't think it's really worth upgrading over. No way. I also kind of question the effect of 5G on battery life. I mean, they even said that it's automatically going to switch between LTE and 5G and use LTE when 5G is not necessary. And honestly, it's like, when is 5G gonna be necessary? Maybe never. So again, just goes back to what I said before. The next improvement is the design. Obviously, it's something that you're gonna notice right away, but it's not really anything that's gonna change your experience with the phone. Again, not anything worth upgrading over in my opinion. I do think it's a really good design. I love that style, but yeah, just not anything worth upgrading. As for the camera on the 12, there are some improvements. So the night sight is now available on all the cameras. So not just the regular wide angle, but also the ultra wide, which is nice. That wasn't available before. And also there's a faster aperture, which will allow better low light and night mode photos. But again, the night mode was already pretty good. It's like, yeah, it's gonna make a difference, but anything worth getting out of bed for? I don't know. As for the MagSafe, yeah, I mean, it's nice to have. If you have a charging dock that supports it, you can make sure that it's lined up all the time. But as for the back attaching MagSafe that turns into a wire, what's the point of that? Why not just plug it in and get an even faster charge? This kind of worries me actually, because there have been lots of rumors that Apple eventually is going to remove the charging port, go all wireless, and I don't know, I just think it makes more sense to just have a stupid plug. And also, how are you gonna connect to the computer if you remove the charging port? So I think this is kind of suggesting that they are planning eventually to remove the charging port and just have it attach this big giant thing on the back. I don't know how I like that. It's nice to have in addition to the charging port, but it kind of worries me that they're going to switch exclusively to that eventually, which I think would be stupid. Speaking of charging, yes, they removed the charging adapter. I mean, it's a blatant cash grab. They're saying, oh, it removes carbon footprint. That's BS. And the thing that's kind of been concerning me about this though is that a lot of people, I think the main target audience who are going to be upgrading to the 12 and 12 Pro and all these are going to be people who have really old versions of iPhones who don't probably have the USB Type-C charger. So the main demographic of people who are going to be buying this new iPhone are going to have to go out and buy a new charging dongle separately. I don't know. I think it's a dumb move. I think they should have given it like a generation or so, more generations of the USB Type-C charger before they forced people to go out and buy it themselves. And they didn't even reduce the price. It's so dumb. Now, as for the iPhone 12 mini, I think it's great. I think it's a great idea. I like smaller phones. I prefer the 12 Pro though, with all the extra camera features and stuff. But if I didn't care about the Pro, then yeah, I would definitely prefer the mini. So I think that's great that they're at least introducing that extra size option. Now let's talk about the 12 Pro and the Pro Max. And again, there's not that much big of a difference between the 11 Pro. I don't think it's worth upgrading at all from the 11 Pro. I mean, yes, there were some camera improvements. Now, the ultra-wide aperture is the same aperture. It's f2.4. The regular camera did improve to f1.6 from f1.8. So that is 27% more light. And there's also the Apple Pro RAW, which I think is cool if you're going to be doing like heavy photo editing. It's nice to be able to do that processing yourself. But one big disappointment, in my opinion at least, is that the 12 Pro Max camera is significantly better than the 12 Pro. Now, I get that this is because there is physically more space and it was probably physically impossible to get all these features into the regular 12 Pro, but it still kind of sucks because the 12 Pro Max is freaking enormous. It is too big for something that I would use. It's slightly bigger even than the 8 Plus, which was the biggest previous iPhone. I had that phone, I used to use it, and I think that that was just too big. I used it, but I prefer the 11 Pro size way more. Now, what do I mean by the 12 Pro Max is better than the 12 Pro in terms of camera? So for example, the telephoto lens is a 2.5x telephoto compared to the 12 Pro, which is only 2x. But the two big differences, in my opinion, are the sensor size of the 12 Pro Max. It's a 47% bigger sensor size, so that's way bigger pixels for better light gathering, which means you can have shorter shutter speeds in lower light for the same exposure, or if it's super stable, you can have longer shutter speeds to collect more light in general. Also, the 12 Pro Max has in-body image stabilization. They're calling this sensor shift, but it means that the sensor will literally be stabilized itself, which can drastically improve the stabilization and again, improve the steadiness of shots. It means you can get longer exposures, more light gathering with the same handheld effect. So that's a huge bummer that the 12 Pro doesn't get that. I mean, I should be kind of excited because I'm not upgrading anyway, and that probably means that next year, maybe they'll be able to fit that into the 12 Pro. I really hope so, because that would kind of really suck if they again started putting only features into the 12 Pro Max, which I think is just too big of a phone. I think it's too big of a phone, at least for me in my sized hands. There were other features for the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max, for example, being able to record in Dolby Vision HDR. That is nice, obviously. As for the LiDAR, I'm not really excited about that. Yeah, it's gonna be able to improve autofocusing if something's close enough in probably portrait mode, but for low light autofocus, I mean, if something is that dark where you can't autofocus on it anyway, is it really even gonna end up being a very good photo? I don't know. I don't think it might turn out okay, but we'll have to see. I don't think it's gonna be as big of a deal as they say. And then also for augmented reality, again, I don't see this as a very popular feature. I never use the augmented reality, basically. I mean, I'm sure it's useful in certain situations, but it's just definitely not something that I even care about if I'm considering an upgrade. So overall, yeah, I think there are several small improvements, but even put together, I don't think it's anything worth upgrading over. Now again, like I said before at the beginning, if you're someone who has a several-year-old phone and you're like, this thing is getting old, it's aging, and it's really limiting what I want to be able to do, then yeah, you're gonna probably be super excited about this big jump because again, it's a lot of new features compared to what you have now. But if you have a recent phone, it's really nothing worth getting excited about in my opinion. I mean, maybe if you're someone who is already using the 11 Pro Max and you're used to that size, you like that size, and you're really into photography, I mean, you're gonna make that decision. You might say, hey, you know what? I use my phone for photos so often that yeah, that is a worth difference. I just really wish they would have added the 120 hertz screen. From my understanding, they were trying to get it in, but they weren't able to do it, possibly because of battery life, possibly because the manufacturing difficulties from COVID, but that would have honestly been a killer feature. I think that would have pushed me over the edge that yeah, I think this would be a worth it feature to upgrade for, but they didn't. And I'm gonna probably wait till the next year to get a 120 hertz screen. So yeah, that's just my thoughts. So yeah, I guess let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you guys wanna keep watching, the next video I'd recommend is one where I've talked about 10 really cool Chrome extensions you definitely gotta see. So I'll put that link right there. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.